Hey everyone, Ma'am Rana here. Today I will be discussing the sexual self. For learning outcomes, first, students will relearn the biological dimension of human sexuality. Second, students will learn about sexual orientation as an essential dimension of human sexuality. These are the subtopics of this lesson for today. First, sexual human development. Second, human reproductive system. Third, physiological aspects of sexual excitement. Fourth, natural and artificial method of contraception. Fifth, STDs and safer sex, choice, risk, and responsibility. Sixth, and lastly, sexual orientation is a basic dimension of human sexuality. Before I start, I want you to pause for a minute and think about this question. Why do you think it is important to be educated on the different sexual orientations? You can write it down on a piece of paper or you can just pause for a while and reflect. Let's proceed. Introduction of self. Sexual self. In this topic, we will not talk about the sexual act, but we will talk about the reproductive system and its function and sexual orientation. There will be two major topics. First is the sexual human development. Under here, I will talk about the reproductive system and its function, physiological aspects of sexual excitement, natural and artificial method of contraception. So I'll just cite a few of them, and I'll have an overview of the topic STDs and safer sex. Second topic is about sexual orientation. First, sexual human development. Hormones are chemical substances secreted by endocrine glands. The gonads or sex glands affect sexual development and behavior by secreting estrogens or female hormones and androgens, male hormones. The gonads in the male are the testes and female gonads are the ovaries. Mature males and females also differ in both primary and secondary sexual characteristics. Primary sexual characteristics refer to the sexual and reproductive organs themselves, the vagina, ovaries, and uterus in females, and the penis, testes, and scrotum in males. Secondary sexual characteristics are more superficial physical features that appear at puberty. In females, secondary sexual characteristics include breast development, broadening of the hips, and other changes in body shape. In males, grow facial and body hair, and the voice deepens. Human reproductive system. So it requires the union of the male and female reproductive system to which carries out to produce another life form. Human reproductive system is an organ system by which humans reproduce and bear offspring. Male reproductive system. So these are the parts of the male reproductive system. First, testis. So it is the most important part of male reproductive organ. It is the source of spermatozoa. Second, scrotum. So it is a sac of skin where the two testes are enveloped. Scrotum is directly below and outside of the abdomen. Prostate glands. It is a gland that carries out both urine and seminal fluid, so it is connected by sperm ducts. From sperm ducts joining into single tube called urethra, then leads to the outside of the body through penis. Penis. It is where the ejaculation occurs by sending sperm cells from the testis and secreted out. Lastly, sperm. It is a male gametes, one that is necessary for the egg to develop and become a baby. For the female reproductive system, these are the parts of the female reproductive system. First, ovary. It is a pair of small, oval organs which produces ova or ovum, female germ cell. So thousands of ova will mature and will be taken up to the fallopian tube through the uterus by the time of puberty. Uterus or womb. It is a hollow pear-shaped elastic muscular structure where fertilized ovum or zygote develops into a baby. Fourth, vagina. It is a tube leading outside of the body through the opening called the vulva. So physiological aspects of sexual excitement, erogenous zone. So these are parts of the body that are particularly sensitive to touch and pressure, which contributes to the sexual arousal. So female and male erogenous zones are stimulated in this. Phases of sexual response. Sexual response follows a regular pattern consisting of 4 phases: arousal, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. First, arousal phase. It is a subjective sense of sexual pleasure. So the physiological sign in males is erection, while for females, it leads to vaginal lubrication and nipple erection. Second phase, plateau phase, is a brief period of time before the orgasm. So it is the body's preparation for orgasm. Third, orgasm phase. So it is an intense, highly pleasurable experience. So when this phase is reached, rhythmic muscular contractions occur in genitals. So for male, ejaculation. Lastly, resolution. So it is the stage where the decrease of arousal happens. Genitals resume their unaroused state and shape. Next subtopic is the natural and artificial method of contraception. As overpopulation and countless cases of STD or sexually transmitted disease such as genital herpes, chlamydia, HIV, AIDS, and etc. increases, it is important for all of you to be educated on the importance of contraception. There are 2 kinds of contraception: the natural method of contraception and artificial method of contraception. For the natural method of contraception, it is a type of birth control that depends on observations on women through monitoring and recording different fertility signals during her menstrual cycle. So through these different methods, such as abstinence, calendar method, basal body temperature method, cervical mucus method, ovulation detection, lactation amenorrhea method, and coitus interruptus, one may predict when it is safe or when a woman will more likely to get pregnant. Artificial method of contraception is a diverse method of contraception used to prevent the conception of a woman. Using artificial method depends on the individual's health status, age, sexual activity, and number of partners. Examples of which are oral contraception, transdermal patch, vaginal ring, subdermal implants, hormonal injection, IUD, chemical barriers, diaphragm, cervical cap, male and female condoms, surgical methods such as vasectomy and tubal ligation. But we have to remember that not all types of artificial contraception are appropriate for all situations. I mentioned that there are different forms of natural and artificial form of contraception. I will just discuss 3 forms for each contraception or method of contraception. For natural method of contraception, I will discuss abstinence, calendar method, and coitus interruptus. For our artificial method of contraception, I will focus on the oral contraception, condoms, and hormonal injections. So let's first discuss the natural method of contraception. First, abstinence. So done through abstaining from sexual intercourse. It is also the most effective way to avoid STDs. Second is calendar method, also called as rhythm method. It involves avoiding coitus. If you watch Big Bang Theory, I know you've heard this word. So coitus means sex during the days that the woman is fertile. But we have to take into consideration women who have irregular periods. So this will not be effective. And lastly, coitus interruptus, commonly known as withdrawal. So this is where the couple proceeds with coitus, but the moment he ejaculates, the man withdraws before emitting the sperm inside the vagina. So let's proceed with the artificial method of contraception. First is oral contraception, also known as the pill. Contains synthetic on estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen, female hormones. I just have to debunk some negative judgments regarding women taking pills. So not every woman who takes pills are sexually active. And there's nothing wrong if you are, as long as you practice safe sex and you know the consequences of your actions. So there's no judgment here. So there are some women who take pills because they have hormonal imbalance or PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Second, condoms. So male condom is a synthetic rubber sheath that is placed in the erect penis before penetration to avoid the sperm to enter the vagina during ejaculation. While female condom is also synthetic rubber placed against the vaginal opening to prevent the sperm to enter the vagina during the ejaculation. Third, hormonal injections. This injection prevents ovulation and cause change in cervical mucus. So let's proceed to STDs and safer sex, choice, risk, and responsibility. Most adults favor greater freedom of choice for themselves when it comes to sex. However, greater choice is accompanied by greater risk. Risk in sexual behavior often comes in the form of STD, sexually transmitted disease. So, a disease that is typically passed from one person to the next by intimate physical contact. By means of intimate physical contact, it is passed through bodily fluids like semen and vaginal secretions, vaginal intercourse, oral sex, anal sex. Sometimes these infections can be transmitted non sexually, such as from mother to infant during pregnancy or childbirth, or through blood transfusions or shared needles. So, sexually active people run higher risks for the following diseases: gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, genital herpes, human papilloma virus or HPV, HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, hepatitis B, and pelvic inflammatory disease. So, if you want to learn more about these diseases, you can just search it on the internet. So, population at risk of HIV/AIDS. HIV can be spread by all forms of sexual intercourse, and it has affected persons of all orientations. We have to debunk the myth that only people from the LGBTQIA will get the said diseases. It can affect persons of all orientation. So the greatest risk for HIV infection are men who have had sex with other men, so homosexual and bisexual, people who have shared needles, so for tattoos or for intravenous drug use, sexual partners who have STDs, and heterosexuals with a history of multiple partners. So again, HIV could potentially affect anyone. So behavioral risk factors for STDs. So responsibility for safer sex rests with each sexually active individual. So it is unwise to count on your sexual partner for protection against STD. So these are the risky behaviors. First, unprotected vaginal, oral, or anal sex, so without a condom, with an infected partner. Having two or more sex partners, so additional partners further increase the risk. Sex with someone you don't know well or with someone you know has had several partners. And lastly, sex with someone you know inject drugs or shares drug needles and syringes, so HIV/AIDS. So these are safer sex practices. Not having sex at all or abstinence. Again, there's no judgment here. I'm not trying to encourage everyone to have sex, but I encourage everyone to know the consequences of your actions. Having sex with one mutually faithful partner, so it's important that your partner is faithful to you, and also you have to be faithful to your partner. Using a condom, discussing contraception with your partner, discussing your partner's sexual health prior to engaging in sex, being selective regarding sexual partner. So it's very important na careful tayo sa mga pinapapasok natin sa ating buhay. So if we're selective with the food that we eat and the clothes that we wear, so it's important to be selective with our sexual partners. Reducing the number of sexual partners, not engaging in sex while intoxicated, and not injecting drugs, especially if you know that the syringe has already been used. So lastly, sexual orientation as a basic dimension of human sexuality. So before anything else, let's distinguish gender and sex. Sex refers to whether you are physically, biologically female or male, while gender refers to all the psychological and social traits associated with being male or female. And let's not forget intersex or intersexual person, one who has an ambiguous sexual anatomy. So another aspect of sex is sexual orientation. So sexual orientation is your enduring pattern of emotional and erotic attraction to members of the same sex, opposite sex, both sexes, or lack of attraction to any sexes. These are some of the sexual orientations. First, heterosexuals. So, romantically and erotically attracted to members of the opposite sex. Homosexuals are attracted to people whose sex matches their own. Bisexuals are attracted to both men and women. And asexuals experience little or no sexual attraction at all. And of course, LGBT or LGBTQIA, or right now, LGBTQIA plus plus plus. LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex or intersex, asexual, aromantic, or agender. So A has also been used as an ally. So disclaimer, I got the definition from the article LGBTQ Definitions Every Good Ally Should Know. It is written by Aliyah Dastagir from the USA Today. So I posted the link of the article for further reading in your BBL. Meaning of intersex is born with sex characteristics such as genitals or chromosomes that do not fit the typical definition of male or female. Queer means it is originally used as a pejorative slur. Queer has now become an umbrella term to describe the myriad ways people reject binary categories of gender and sexual orientation to express who they are. So people who identify as queer embrace identities and sexual orientations outside of the mainstream heterosexual and gender norms. Sexual orientation. Again, sexual orientation, how a person characterizes their sexuality. Gay, a sexual orientation that describes a person who is emotionally or sexually attracted to people of their own gender. Lesbian, a woman who is emotionally or sexually attracted to other women. Bisexual, a person who is emotionally or sexually attracted to more than one sex or gender. Pansexual, a person who can be attracted to all different kinds of people, regardless of their biological sex or gender identity. Asexual, someone who doesn't develop sexual attraction to anyone until they have a strong emotional connection. Aromantic, a person who experiences little or no romantic attractions to others. So let's proceed to gender identity. Gender identity, one's concept of self as male or female, or neither. So gender role, the social behaviors that culture assigns to each sex. And gender expression, how we express our gender identity. Under here, transgender, cisgender, binary, non-binary, gender queer, agender, gender expansive, gender fluid, transsexual, transvestite, trans, drag kings and drag queens, bottom surgery, androgynous, and gender non-conforming. So out versus closeted. So out, publicly revealing a person's sexual orientation or gender identity when they're personally chosen to keep it private. And closeted, an LGBTQ person who will not or cannot disclose their sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity to the wider world. Under here, coming out, outing, living openly, closeted, passing, down low. So for the attitudes, you're either ally, sex positive, heterosexual privilege, heteronormativity, heterosexism, cissexism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, transmisogyny, TERF, transfeminism, and intersectionality. So everything is on the link that I provided. So definitions can be found in the article. And also you can research more in the internet, and I also post supplementary videos from YouTube. Again, if you want to learn more about sexual orientation, I have also provided YouTube videos under the PowerPoint presentation. And please research more through the internet, because all of us are still learning about these terms too. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you've learned something. Take care always, guys.